My juices flow all the time.
Absolutely, absolutely.
You know as much as I know.
Right now, we've been able to stuff the stuff.
The curse is broken. NC State fans, finally. Finally.
Hey, happy Thanksgiving.
I mean, that's a triple play.
Wolfpack ain't for soft. It ain't for soft people.
So we were talking about opportunities on the last Pack Therapy episode, and look at that. NC State goes 2-0 in their Q1 opportunities against Duke, and then Virginia Tech over the weekend. Scott Wood, Wolfpack great, joining me as always here during the basketball season. And Scott, NC State has themselves in a pretty good position now. We started this season worrying about those opportunities, but they've taken advantage of two of them. Now here comes another one, Scott, and this one feels old-fashioned ACC, a little run-it-back game with Miami on Saturday. If you're Kevin Keatts and you're NC State, how are you feeling going into this game Saturday afternoon against the Hurricanes at PNC?
You know, obviously, I think they're feeling good because of the last two outcomes and how they played. I think, outside of the last minute and a half, they've put together two 40-minute games that has really, really been solid. Now, the question is, and one of the fears that I have is they've got a whole week off to kind of prepare for this. I think that's kind of a red flag for me. I think obviously it gives them an opportunity to heal up because I think emotionally and physically those were two really big games that they had to have. So it kind of gives them a chance to reset. But if anything, I think their confidence is high going into the game, but the week off does kind of throw me for a little bit of a monkey loop.
It's not a hot take. However, I think Miami is the best team in the ACC. I like their guards better than Virginia's guards. Isaiah Wong, Nigel Pack, Jordan Miller gives them a little something on the wing, gave State problems in that first game down in Miami. Jim Larinaga is a guy who just keeps chugging along, keeps winning basketball games. If he was in a different market, he would get more respect. But since they don't care about college basketball pretty much in the state of Florida, he gets what he gets, but he doesn't care because he's making a bunch of money and winning a bunch of games. But they're a heck of a team, in my opinion. Just talk a little bit about the challenge in front of NC State because their strength is their guards. It is Jarkel Joyner. It is Terquavion Smith. And that backcourt matchup in this game, this is a big one.
Yeah, I think obviously we match up well with them. Obviously, you mentioned they're well coached with Larinaga. They've got a very good veteran presence, which again I think is a big piece to closing out ball games, and is the reason why they were able to come back on State, stay composed in the first game, and then finish it off at the end because they've got really good experience. Now, obviously, I think NC State kind of has that as well a little bit with Jarkel. I think T is learning to do that. But again, I think it's just going to be a heck of a matchup between those guards. And then I think obviously what can separate us is kind of how DJ's kind of evolved as the season's gone on to now you've got a presence that you can give the ball inside to slow things down a little bit if you need to.
You didn't get a chance to play in a true round robin when you were at State 2009 through 13. But you did get to see teams more often in a home and home basis for people like me and for people who are just fans. What is it like that second game, the second time you see them, especially when it's back at your place after losing down there?
It's like anything, man. The more you see a team, the more familiar you get with them. It's harder to continuously beat a team, multiple times. Or you see them twice and all of a sudden you're seeing them in the ACC tournament and say you beat them twice. It's hard to beat that team a third time, especially with how, how much game film you're watching and all these things. It's easy for you to go back, watch game film, break it down and be like, all right, these subtle changes that you can make. And it's even harder for a team that has won. And it's like, I got to do the same thing, but you got to understand that staff and that player is going to do something a little bit different coming back at you. So it's tough, especially at this level and the ACC. Changes are going to be made. I always love facing them a second time to see how, your X's and O's can change against their X's and O's. But you get a good feel for the team, and it translates into a much better game the second time.
You had a chance your last 2 years. Bobby Lutz was Mark Gottfried's top assistant, and I'd argue nobody could scout a team and prepare a team the way that Bobby Lutz could. What were some of the second time rounds that you might have noticed with Coach Lutz where he was like, I mean, I just remember sitting at the baseline at Wake Forest, and he would call out their plays
Yeah.
before they even ran them. Like, he would recognize, basically, for the lack of a better term, the formation and just call it out and know. But what was it like with Coach Lutz and just kind of knowing how well he'd have you guys prepared?
I absolutely loved it. And I think that's kind of why, you know, we enjoyed each other's presence so much. Is I'm not an overly athletic guy. I'm not going to make up for my mistakes. So I've got to be on top of.
Wait a second, you're not overly athletic?
Unfortunately, no. Jason
Okay.
reminded me of that last night because apparently he went and watched some freshman phenom play and he was dunking on people and he said he's the next Scott Wood and I was like, I've never done that, so that's not true. But yeah, it's just you really got to lock in, and I think especially your smarter basketball players, they love to look at the scout, they love to look at the challenge when they see the horns up, the horn side, the horns down, they know exactly what's coming. Um, so then it really comes down to the execution of it. Are you going to set a really good screen to get somebody open? But I think you start to see the really good teams, they don't care if you know what's coming. They're just going to run it and hammer it, and they're going to run it so well. It's just so hard to guard, and there's multiple options that they can kind of feed off that. But, me and Bobby, we just enjoyed it. I mean, I've told the Georgia Tech story a bunch of times. They needed a three. He basically said, hey, if you see this guy standing here and this guy standing here, you know it's coming. The guy I was guarding was running the wrong play, and I literally told him, I said, you're supposed to be here. And so I'm standing in the spot, all because, Bobby just sat us down. He said, if they need a three at the end of the game, that's what they're going to run. And nowadays, all the teams are on top of it. It just kind of comes down to how basketball smart some of these players are, and if they can, lock in at the end of games and realize what's being run.
You're making me laugh a little bit here. Going down memory lane just a smidge here, and thinking about end game scenarios and end game plays. We're going to talk to DJ Burns. He's going to join us on Pack Therapy this week. But there's a player in the front court who I think deserves a little bit of praise and hasn't gotten much of it, and that's Greg Gant. Greg was a kid, a Fayetteville kid, began his career at Providence, played some, was up there with Ed Cooley. Cooley does an unbelievable job, ends up transferring after, I think it was 2 years. And then, he was hurt. We didn't really see him. We didn't really know what to expect out of him. I don't know about you. He kind of looks like Richard Howell to me. He looks like a smaller Richard Howell. They kind of resemble each other in my own head. Maybe I'm imagining that. But I tell you what, the way he's played in the last 2 games without Jack Clark, it has been Richard Howell-esque with the rebounds and the screens, and he's a guy who knows his role. Had 9 rebounds in the win at Virginia Tech, had 4 points, 5 boards, and 2 blocks and 3 steals. Active on the defensive end, and 30 and 37 minutes in those 2 games. I mean, I think, Scott, you have to be impressed with what Greg Gant's been able to do, thrust into that starting lineup with Jack Clark's injury.
Yeah, and I think you said it best. Knowing your role. Nowadays in basketball, it's hard for a high school recruit to understand that when you step into college, you're not going to be the same guy. You're not just going to come in and average. Everybody averaged 25 in high school. Everybody, maybe not Joe Giglio, but everybody averaged 25. So now, can you come in?
I think I averaged 5 or 6.
Hey, you knew your role in high school. See,
I was a defensive stopper. I'm not going to lie to you. That was my role.
I would have loved to face up against you back in high school. We'd have had a good battle.
We would have, yes.
But you got to.
The 7 inches you have on me mean nothing. I definitely, there would be elbows, there would be shirt pulling, there would be faking going for your knees. Yeah. Yes.
Sorry, you are the county school kid I hated to play back home.
Correct. But you got me a couple times. I'd probably punch you at some point. There'd be some boxing out.
All right.
Yeah.
See, if you have a really good team and a really elite role, I had a guy that was the hockey guy that would come in.
Yeah.
Hey, go hit that guy for me real quick.
Oh, you had one of those.
Yeah.
I got you.
Heat screen.
Got you.
But yeah, I think that's the kind of the lost art of basketball, and what a lot of people they just fall in love with the stats. Greg Gant gets it done without really showing up in the stat book, and that's what you need on these really good teams that make really deep runs is they have these role players that can do what they do at a high level and understand that I may not be the sexy person or get all the praise, but we're going to win ball games, and it's a big piece because of them. I call them glue guys, role players, whatever you want to do. They get the job done, and I think this is one of the first teams that I've really seen with Coach Keats that I feel like these kids really know their role. He's not going out there trying to, shoot a bunch of threes. Now, if he's open, I'm going to tell him to take it because, again, I said this the other day on a podcast. You got to keep those guys happy. You got to make them feel involved. They're not going to shoot it every time, but at least keep them happy. So when they get to the defensive end, they're like, all right, I'm going to work for these guys because I feel involved a little bit more. But they got it for the first time that I've seen in the Coach Keats era is they've got multiple, not just one. They have multiple guys that understand that role and do it at a very high level.
And then the other guy is E.B. Dewana. Last year he was thrust into a primary role at the 5, which he, quite frankly wasn't ready for, but Kevin didn't have much of a choice. And now we're seeing EB in smaller doses, and I think he's been really effective. What have you seen from his growth from last year to this?
Yeah, and I've been a big component of if you have all 3 healthy bigs. I think he has 3 unique bigs that he can utilize all a little bit different. EB's kind of the guy that can switch out on people. He's a little bit more athletic than the others. I think he can rebound better at times, especially traffic rebounding when there's multiple hands in there coming away with a rebound. But again, I think what he did last year, he got thrown in the fire last year, struggled quite a bit, but that's okay. But came back this year, didn't get a lot of minutes early on, and understood that, hey, my team needs me. I need to step in. And he's done it really, really well, So I think going forward, I think it just adds a piece when Dusan comes back that, hey, I've got a guy that thinks defensively first, and he thinks, hey, I need to go get an offensive rebound, defensive rebound, and do what it takes to help my team. And again, I think it speaks to the roles that Coach Keats finally has is he's another guy that just understands what his presence is on the floor and can do it night in and night out.
I was able to catch up with Kevin Keats this week on the OG, asked him about Dusan Mahorsic because we had talked about this after the Duke game. I was like, hey, because I was up in Canada, you were closer to the floor. And I said, hey, did it look like Mahorsic did not have a brace on? And you were like, I don't think he did. He's like, but you said he's definitely moving up and down behind that bench faster than he was. I didn't realize he had the same patella dislocation injury last year at Utah. So this is something he's gone through before. I know he had targeted this Miami game as being back. I suspect we see him next week in Chapel Hill, though. How about you?
I think he's close. I've had a couple talks with that they're moving. He's moving better. He's doing some things. So I know he's itching to get back on the floor like any player would. Obviously, I think they're trying to protect his best interest to make sure that he's close to 100% and he will not further injure himself. So, I hope he's back. I know NC State fans love him like they love DJ. It's kind of funny. I don't know the last time that NC State has just been over the moon with bigs. I mean, they absolutely love them when they come in the game. So I think you got 2 guys there, 3 guys with EB that we have when they're healthy that could be a good trio to mix and match to really throw different looks, especially on the defensive end, but as well as you got DJ on the offensive end that can really confuse some things for some teams.
Okay, so I think, if my math is right, I'm 15 years older than you. But I'm going to give you a chance to yell at some clouds here. Because your freshman year, Carolina wins a national championship. Your second year, Duke wins a national championship.
Yeah.
I bring this up because the league was pretty good.
Yeah.
They had Roy Williams and Mike Krzyzewski and Rick Pitino. Well, by the end of your career, they had Rick Pitino. But when you look at the league now, Scott, I was watching Carolina and Virginia this week, and I was like, these are supposed to be the 2 best teams. I'm not feeling it. I was watching Pitt and Duke last night. I was impressed with some of Pitt's parts, but I'm not sitting here going, this team's going to be in the Final Four. I honestly, I think Miami's the best team, but just your thoughts on where the ACC is now compared to your salad days.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's changed, but I also think the landscape of college basketball has changed in general. I mean, you've got NIL, you've got the transfers. I mean, it's just a different day and age of basketball. Even the style of basketball is different now, you know? So to me, I feel like a top to bottom is just a more balanced league. I think when I was there,
I would agree with that. Yeah.
I think now when I was there, you know, I think even Boston College, you know, as a Reggie Jackson, an NBA veteran, there were some elite players still down at the bottom. You know, Georgia Tech had the Amon Shumperts, you had all this stuff, but you had like a legit 2 to 3 to maybe 4, you know, national championship contenders in the league. I don't know if I can necessarily say that now. There's not anybody in the ACC where I'd be like, okay, that team can win the national championship this year. I think that's where it's a little bit different. But I think what it also brings is just a much more balanced ACC, because the top team could lose 3 straight games and the bottom team could win 3 straight games. It's just, you really don't know what you're going to get. If you don't come to play that night, you know, you could get beat. Now, for granted, in my time, that's what you kind of told yourself. You know, if you didn't come to play against BC, you're going to get beat. But you just had these 4 teams that were just so dominant that I feel like they were always beating teams by 20 and 30 points. You would have it. But nowadays, you just don't get that with this ACC.
Scott Wood, I will see you on Saturday at PNC Arena. Appreciate you taking the time. And you got a prediction for Saturday? You felt good about Duke. How you feel about this one?
Well, now that it's live, I feel a little bit different. I think NC State will win this game. I think NC State will come out a little bit different than what they did in their previous games. I actually think they will come out a little bit sluggish because of the break. But I think in rare form, they will turn it on towards the end of the second half and be able to carry it on into the second half. So I think it's going to be a very good game, a very tight game. Again, we mentioned the guard play. I think it'll be very fun to watch the guard play. But I have a good belief that NC State will pull this one out.
All right, we'll figure it out. We'll talk to a guy next who probably will have a big role in that game. DJ Burns, the big man, will join us on Pack Therapy next. All right, our guest this week needs no introduction. He's actually the most popular NC State basketball player I can remember, and I've been covering the team for 25 years. DJ Burns, kind enough to join us here on Pack Therapy. I don't recognize you without your glasses there, DJ.
Man. Yeah, sir. I finally got those things off, and I can see clearly now again. So
let's start there. Let's start there because in the post-game locker room celebration after the Virginia Tech win, you're wearing what looked to be sunglasses. Maybe you were just like fronting. Maybe you were being cool. I don't know. But it has spawned like this social media response, and they're even having a giveaway at Saturday's game. So let's go back to like where the glasses came from and actually clear it up, because you had an injury, right? And you weren't just trying to be a cool guy.
Right. Actually, during the end of the Duke game, I got poked in the eye, and when they were attempting to double team. And at first, it didn't seem like it was going to be that big of a deal outside of like the first couple minutes when it was hurting. But by the time we were on our way to Virginia Tech, I noticed that it was starting to burn a lot more, and my eye was really red. And then after I looked in the mirror, I seen that there was a cut in my eye, and it was just burning really bad. It felt like a stabbing sensation. And I went to CVS and bought the glasses just so I could have some tint for my eyes, because it was just bothered by anything that had to do with light sensitivity.
So you put them on in the post game, you do dance, you feel good. Were you surprised by the reaction on social media to it?
Honestly, I was. I didn't expect that to happen. I was just doing it so I could see, but once we turned it into something cool, I was like, man, this is the coolest thing ever. Crazy how it works.
Yes. So let's go through a little bit about your college career. You start at Tennessee, which I didn't realize. I thought maybe Craig Hamill put it in the bio because he's a Tennessee grad and was all excited to get some Tennessee info out there. You start your career at Tennessee. You go back to your hometown, right? Winthrop is Rock Hill. That's your home.
Yes,
just a little bit about where you started and I guess that year at Tennessee, was it were you just, did you get homesick? What happened there?
I was actually a redshirt my freshman year at Tennessee when those guys were the #1 team in the country. I say those guys because I didn't play. I don't want to
Sure.
take credit for something that I wasn't really part of more than practice. But yeah, so I was a redshirt there, and things just didn't work out. So I decided to take it on back home to Winthrop. There was a few schools, and back then that wanted me to come there, but I wanted the best chance, not only for myself to play, coming off of a redshirt year with the transfer portal being the way it was then, but I also wanted to go somewhere where I could win. So I was like, I didn't want to. No offense to them, but I was like, I didn't want to go to upstate. I didn't want to go to Wofford. So I was like, Winthrop is right where I'm at
Yeah.
home. So I felt like the right thing to do, and it turned out well.
So you're the conference freshman of the year, first year there. You're the conference player of the year, your last year there. How tough was and it is home. So how tough was it for you to leave Winthrop and take this opportunity to come to NC State and spend your last year of college eligibility here in Raleigh?
Honestly, it was a tough decision, leaving your guys, my teammates who I had grown very close with, my coaches, they believed in me like no other. And it felt like home. So it was my home, and with my family being close by, it felt like it would have been a little harder. But honestly, as far as a career move to be able to showcase my talents at the highest level, it was a no-brainer that I was going to be able to go to what is considered a higher level and be able to showcase my talents on a bigger platform.
Let's get into some of your names and nicknames. The D stands for Dwight.
Yes, sir.
Does anybody call you Dwight?
Yeah, actually most of my teachers always have my
Is
whole
that
life.
right?
Yeah, they don't really like the DJ. They always went with Dwight. So I never really
Okay.
stopped. But other than that, no, sir. Unless my mom, when she's like, Dwight.
Yeah, I was gonna say mom's is usually the one who goes by that birth name. So
Yeah, I got
that's how it goes.
Yeah, I also have a few friends who still call me that. They do it jokingly, but most of the time it's become normal to them now. So
Okay, so your dad's Dwight. Dad's Dwight Senior, you're Dwight Jr.
yes, sir.
All right, now Beastie Boy Burns, that's the Twitter handle.
Yeah, that actually came from when I first got a Xbox account. I had to come up with a name, and I think it had me as like Flying Penguin 30, something like that. And I was like, this is just completely goofy. So I was like, I had to come up with something, and I was like, I'm a beast on the court. I was a boy at the time, and my last name was
Yeah.
Burns, and I was just like Beast Boy Burns, and we're going with it. And that used to be like all my social media platform names, so it just kind of stuck after that.
You're aware there was a group of white rappers by the name of the Beastie Boys from the 80s and 90s, right?
Yes, sir. Great music too,
Okay.
for sure.
All right. Huge Beastie Boy fans. So
Yeah.
I'm from up that way. So
Okay.
what's been the biggest challenge for you in ACC play so far? What has been the biggest adjustment? I feel like college basketball has changed so much that, you played a lot of good teams at Winthrop. I can't imagine that it's been that big of a different leap. But for you, what do you see as the difference this season playing in the ACC?
Honestly, just being patient with myself. I feel like sometimes if I'm not hitting my shots as soon as the game starts or as soon as I go in, it can kind of affect your mental going into the next possessions. But I'm learning to just, move on to the next play. You can't do anything about it once it happens. And everybody's always worried about how they look. I'm just trying to worry about how I can help my team win at this point. That was something that I really had to work on in the beginning, though, coming from a place where being in a mid-major school, like Winthrop, it was a little easier to score.
Yeah.
So now that they're making it a little harder for you, you got to stay consistent and just, keep your head up because there's moments where I might have 5 points in a game and the next one might be 18. So you never know. Just stay consistent and do all the things that you can control outside of scoring the ball. It's the biggest thing for me.
You can really stroke. Have you always been a great shooter, and have you always been the biggest kid? Were you ever allowed to like be the point guard and just come down and fire threes?
In AAU when I was younger, yeah, they
Okay.
if you can hoop, they'll let you hoop.
Right.
AAU doesn't really have as much structure, so there was a few moments where I would play a little guard then and there.
All right. So I talked to Kevin Keats earlier this week, and he said you could be on Dancing with the Stars. Says you have
Yeah,
good feet.
for
Have you
sure.
always been quick, nimble? Has that always been a thing?
Yes, sir. Growing up, even from when I'd say probably in fourth or fifth grade, they started me out with the quick ladder,
Okay.
and I just move around on that thing all day. We do it before practice, during practice, and after practice. So footwork just kind of came naturally. And then when you watch your favorite players, you learn that they do these post moves and you watch how they get around people. And it's just like, I want to be able to do that as well. So I just worked really hard at it until I was able to gather the footwork.
I look at you, DJ, in admiration for your skill set. I also look at you, you're a big dude. Please tell me you have a favorite either meal or spot that you have found here in Raleigh.
Since I've been in Raleigh, I'm gonna be honest. It's not a new place, but I've been going to Chipotle a lot.
Chipotle. All right.
Yeah, I like the they have like I'll get like the lettuce and stack it up and make like a kind of a salad out of the bowl. Or I'll just do a chicken bowl, and those two things just seem to do it for me. And they're not as bad nutrition wise, so I'm able to stay healthy but still get something that I enjoy every time.
What's your let's call it a cheat meal? Are you a cookout person? Are you a Bojangles person? Are you a Popeyes person?
Honestly, I won't really say I have one. I try to stay away from it altogether now that I'm on this journey of trying to get in the best possible shape for Wolfpack Nation. So I wouldn't really say I have one right now.
That's good. That's good. I wish I had your willpower. I'm not as good as you when it comes to those things. So I need to work on those too.
Yeah, I was about to say it took me a while to get to this point, just self-control at an all-time high right now, trying to work on that.
Yeah. A pizza is my Achilles, DJ. Pizza.
I would say that it was mine as well back then, but now I don't even look at it anymore. I'm like, I don't need this right now.
All right, no tempting you with pizza then. Before I let you go, DJ Burns, NC State forward, the big guy, the Beastie Boy Burns. I think I need to start using. I like to call you the big boy.
Yes, sir.
I mean, come in, get that post. You got that mid-range game. You got the old man game. I'm not the first person to tell you have an old man game, right?
Nah, not at all. And I kind of pride myself on that because honestly, I can do a lot more, but with the team that we have, they don't need me to do that, honestly. So I just try to go and I'm like, what do I bring to the table that's different from all the guys? Everybody on this team can shoot a three. I can do that as well, but that's not what they need from me. We take a lot as it is, and they need me to be in that post. They need my presence in the post. So I try to focus on doing that, just bringing that to the table for my team where it was something that they lacked thereof last year.
How do your minutes get managed? Because I'm looking at the box score from the Duke game the other day, and you were great. Beginning of the game, you really gave the team a spark. Second half, you kind of ate a little bit there too. I looked down, you only played 16 minutes. You had 18 points in 16 minutes. Are you in charge of your minutes, or is Kevin in charge of your minutes? Is there a signal? Do you have to tell him? You got to give him the. How does it work? Because I didn't realize you only played 16 minutes in that game.
Right. Yeah. I don't even pay attention to it, to be honest. I've never went back after a game or at all and been like, let me check how many minutes I played. I know sometimes it'll be 16, sometimes it'll be 30, sometimes it might be 10, sometimes I might not play. So I'm just going to keep my head down and let the coaches handle all of that because they know what to do in order for us to win, and they're going to put us in the best position. So I trust them.
All right. NC State's on a 2-game winning streak. DJ Burns is a big reason why. DJ, appreciate you taking some time here on Pack Therapy.
Yes,
and
sir.
Best of luck this weekend and best of luck going forward. I can't wait for the Syracuse game. I know you're going to be in the middle of the zone. Can't wait. I can't wait to see it. Whatever your career high is for assists, I can't wait to see that night.
I was about to say, tell them bring it on. I love the zone.
DJ Burns, thank you so much for taking time here on Pack Therapy. If you missed anything, go back, check us out. WRLSportsFan.com or wherever you get your podcasts. We'll see you next week. Thanks, DJ.